through Friday, Sactown Sports.
Hey, remember when the home team used to win NBA playoff games? Doesn't that seem like a long time ago? 2 stunners last night, Indiana over the Cavs, and then Drapes doesn't like it when I do the Warriors chant, so I won't do it here. Warriors over the Timberwolves, 99-88. Steph Curry injured, grade 1 hamstring pull. So what does that mean? A big win, but without Steph for a while. With more on that, nice enough to join us, the outstanding voice of the Warriors, used to cover the Kings here in Sacramento, Tim Roye. How are you today, Tim?
I'm good. You're very kind. It's kind of a beautiful day here in Minneapolis, and just going to enjoy it. And then I'm going to head out and see Target Field for the first time tonight.
Oh, nice.
It'll be a good day.
Yeah. Oh, was that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know you've done a billion games, Tim. Was that last night, all things considered, one of the more surprising results?
Yeah, I think it was. It wasn't shocking. You know, I think what this whole little period that you just alluded to has shown us is that there is a rest-rust argument. And I think the teams that had a lot of time off weren't on top of their game. And I think, Minnesota, for the second game in a row, didn't shoot the ball very well. They just seemed a little bit out of rhythm. Now, the Warriors had something to do with that. They took them out of rhythm a lot with their defense. But I think that it wasn't totally shocking, but it was a little bit surprising.
Tim Roye joining us. Tim, I'm looking at, some of the quotes from Minnesota after last night's loss, I'm looking at Chris Finch, saying we'll have to take justice into our own hands. They're talking about how physical the Warriors were in game 1. You're out there. What did you notice in game 1? How physical was that? And do the Timberwolves have any kind of gripe there?
Oh, to poor 7 foot whatever Rudy Gobert just getting pummeled out there. My goodness, has he watched any game film with Steph Curry and what teams do to Steph Curry? Come on. He does. This is the same team that started a fight a couple years ago because one of their players tried to literally rip the jersey off of Klay Thompson. So I think it's just gamesmanship on his part, and he's trying to get an edge. And again, I think it's the Warriors kind of put it to him. I think they. The Lakers didn't play as physical as the Warriors did in game 1. And I think that, when you have Butler and you have Draymond and you have guys that are tough players, you got to be ready for that. I think Houston was ready for it. They have some really, tough young guys out there, and Şengün is a handful. He's got the one thing Şengün has on Gobert, he's got that low base. You can't dislodge him. And Steven Adams, let's not even talk about him. He's just a mountain. But yeah, so I think it's just a little bit of gamesmanship on his part.
Tim Roye with us, and Tim, as you know, Buddy Hield has kind of a checkered history here. When the Kings got him for DeMarcus Cousins, there was some talk that, he could be the next Steph, and then he fell out of favor here, and he was unhappy with contracts and things, said some bad things about Sacramento after he left, and now all of a sudden it looks like he's maybe resurrecting his career. How has Buddy found his niche with this Warrior team?
He is beloved by this team. He keeps everybody loose. He is just a crack up, and he and Jimmy Butler had this rapport. They should take their 2-man act on the road. It's funny how he has fit in with what they do. He's a better defender than I ever thought he would be, and they kind of emphasized him using his size and his strength on defense, and that's helped him out a lot. But he's just found a home. I think it's, the other part about it is when you have Steph and Jimmy Butler and Draymond and Steve Kerr and guys that have, been in the NBA finals, they've won championships, and not in Jimmy's case, but yeah. Steph, Draymond, and Steve Kerr have won championships. But I think that there's a level like, if they're going to go out there and bust their tail, I've got to go out and bust my tail. And so I think there's a little bit of that going on as well. But he fits in well, and again, he is the guy that keeps that locker room loose and keeps guys from really worrying about what's going on. He's a crack up. I'm really happy for him because what you don't hear about Buddy, and I'm as guilty as anybody else before he got to the Warriors. One, he is durable. I think he's played. Yeah. If not the most games, he's in the top 5 since 16-17. He's there every night. And then the second thing is he's been one of the best 3-point,
Yes.
scorers in the league the last 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so he has, a lot of skill.
All right, Tim, no Steph Curry for at least a week, reevaluated. How does that impact, and what's the level of confidence in the Warriors you think for these next few games?
Well, obviously it goes down in a big way without Steph. I think they're going to have to play a little bit differently. I think they're going to have to make it a little bit the way it was last night. I think a more physical, low-scoring series. I think they're going to have to be very deliberate. And I think you may see them adjust they're going to have to adjust the rotation, obviously. But I think you're going to see maybe guys like Quinton Post. I think they're going to try to get Moses Moody going because they're going to need scoring. And so I think you're going to see more of the shooters get to play than some of the other guys. So it's going to be interesting to see what kind of combinations they pull out. And I would expect Steve Kerr probably to go deep with his rotation. I would think that one of the ways they can win this series is to wear down Minnesota. I think the Warriors are deeper in, not stars, but NBA quality players than Minnesota is. So I would expect them to go deep into the rotation. It's going to be really interesting. I think I think for the Warriors, if they have any hope of getting Steph back, then you got to win at least one of the next four, because of a scheduling quirk, because of the Valkyries are in and they're opening up, the next week. They're after game 5, which will be here on Wednesday in Minneapolis next week, a week from tonight, and that's when he's getting reevaluated. They won't play again until Sunday for game 6. So they'll have a few extra days, and that would give Steph basically a week and a half. So if it's not super serious, and I have no idea if it is or what it is, I know it's a grade 1 sprain. They're going to reevaluate him. That's all I know. But if he can come back, that would give him a few extra days.
Has Steve Kerr done in this series, it's only been one game, but also the previous series and holding this thing together after Jimmy Butler came on board, has it been one of the more impressive coaching jobs you've seen him do in your time with the Warriors?
It's funny. I think, one of the great things about Steve when they had, as he said, they're all NBA lineup, was that he kept guys steady and okay with what was going on. There was always a line of communication between him and his stars. And I think that helped that team get to its heights. This particular job has been mixing and matching. The Warriors had, I think, 4 different starting lineups in the first round, which is kind of unheard of in the playoffs. Usually in the teams in the playoffs, they have a starting 5 and they're going to go with that. But he's mixing and matching, looking for combinations that'll work. He had just settled on this one that had Steph, Podziemski, Buddy Hield, Draymond, and Butler. It played 58 minutes in the Houston series. That group had played only 27 minutes in the regular season. So yeah, he's constantly searching. I wouldn't be surprised if we have a totally different starting lineup, maybe 2 different guys in the starting lineup tomorrow night. And so I think, yeah, he's really done a masterful job of trying to take the pieces he has and finding the combinations that work on that particular night against that particular team.
Hey, Tim, you're a Sacramento guy. I know you got love still for the city and the Kings. I've gone on record 1,000 times. It's hard for me to watch the Warriors. I'm not a Warriors guy. I view it as how do you do it? How did you?
On your days in Boston, I understand.
Yeah, my Boston days. Yeah,
you're getting the duck boats out. I understand.
So as an outsider,
and
tell me,
New England, by the way.
Tell me give me something about this Warriors team franchise that would make a guy like me say, you know what, they're not that bad. Even Steph Curry, the way he chew on that damn mouthpiece bothers me sometimes. So take me behind the scenes with the guys. What is it like being around them? What is it like being on the road? What is it like being a part of the organization out there?
Since the sale, and for the longest time, it was not a great organization. Okay, we were awful on the floor. We weren't great off the floor. And, the one thing those of us who were trying to, get through all that, we kept telling ourselves, this is a gold mine. We just got to wait until somebody finds it, right? It was sitting on this incredible fan base and a great area to live, Northern California. And so, now the sale was made and everything has changed. Steph Curry, if you were working as one of the Warrior announcers, He would address you by name. He would come up to you and talk to you, ask you how your family's doing. Same with Steve Kerr. Draymond Green would come over, give you a dap, give you a hug, say, "Hey, how's it going? What's happening?" You know, their on floor demeanor and their intense desire to win kind of masks how they are off the floor. It's a really great group to work with, and it's a really inclusive group. I'll never have it as easy as a broadcaster in the NBA than I have it right now because it's so inclusive. I can go to the coaches. I can talk to assistant coaches. I can talk to Steve Kerr. I can talk to Steph Curry. I don't have to worry about somebody shooing me away. It's a really inclusive group right now, and it's a real fun place to work as a broadcaster. I have because of the tone set by Steve and by Steph and by Joe Lacob, the owner, who said from day one, we're not just going to have a business side and a basketball side, but it's all going to be together. And so it's really a blast. I can't tell you how lucky I am.
There you go, Drake.
I almost hurled there listening to all that positivity. Yeah, right.
Wow. Tim, we as always, we appreciate it. We can't wait to see you out at the arena next year. Obviously, bigger fish to fry for you guys right now. So best of luck, and thanks for your time. Enjoy the game tonight.
Yeah, I will. It's always good. I've never been to the park, and so I'm looking forward to it. And congrats to Doug Christie. And I can't root for him 4 times a year, but I hope he gets it going there.
Nice.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks, Tim.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Tim Roye.
Dang. It's hard to argue with that.
That was a little bit rude.
What? No, I teed him up right there, and he took the ball and ran it, scored a touchdown on that one. He might get a raise down there in Golden State for that. Oof. No, that sounds. You know what? The thing he said though, you're sitting on a gold mine. That's what Sacramento. When this thing gets right, it's going to pop. It's going to pop the right way. So it's hard to remember and think the Warriors used to be the dregs,
Yeah.
And now look at them.
Mm-hmm.
Man,
I still think there's virtually it's going to be really hard to win this
to win without Steph.
Yeah. Really tough. Although the way